All right, so today I'm going to show how to pull apart an older SIG P220 SAO, and what makes it different than the newer ones is this spring right here. Okay, it's purely held in there by friction and tension up against the thumb safety. I've never found a good way to get these things in and out. Basically, you just have to kind of muscle it in and out and hope it doesn't break. So I've never had a problem with it before. I've had it out a couple of times doing some work on this pistol, but it is different and it can be a bit of a challenge. So as you can see, I've already pulled off the slide and the grips. So before you do this, you want to make sure your hammer's forward to get all the tension you can off of the hammer strut and spring. So I'll go ahead and remove the trigger bar spring, and next thing I'm going to do is you want to get the sear spring tension released. So just slide that a tool in. I'm using a punch. Just slide the little leg over and out from underneath this little bar right here. Okay, so we'll start taking some pins out, get through, get the hammer or the sear pin out, and everything's gonna fall out. There it goes. There's your sear spring. There's the pin, and the safety is still in there. I'll get that in a second here. So I've got to get the safety off. I'm going to get this piece out. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back and get this guy out because I forgot to. All right, so pull the safety off. Oh, I've got to get this, actually the spring's got to come off first. Now this is the challenge. Now what I've done in the past is just sort of pop it like that and then keep your thumb over it or your finger somehow so it doesn't go flying. And just pull the safety off on one side and pull it off on the other. There you go. So the leg of your safety goes on the right side of the pistol like that. Okay. And our next step is just to push through the hammer pin through. Get the hammer out. And voila. It's real important to note that you've got a hammer return spring down in here. Right there. You got to make sure that this little bar on the back of the hammer, this bar needs to go underneath that spring when you reassemble everything. So I'm going to set the hammer over there, and I'm going to get out my new Armory Craft hammer out. So this is the new Armory Craft single action only hammer that I got a while back from Milo's. Milo's, thank you. It's a very nice, well-made part. I'm not going to do anything more to it right now other than just make sure everything looks good inside. The pinhole looks like I've got a little piece of something in there, some lint or something. So I'm going to stop this and get that out. I'm going to go ahead and do what I do with all new parts, just as a precaution. This is a, I think it's a 5/32 drill bit, and I just run it back and forth a couple times just to, in case there's any kind of little burrs or anything in there. Okay, there's no major force applied. Just want to clear it out. I'm also going to do what I normally do. I've got some 1500 grit paper, and I'm just going to run it right across the surface here just to clean it off if there's any finish that's left over on it. Not saying there is, but I just like to get it cleaned up. You don't want to really remove any material off of here, at least not in the beginning, until you see how it works and the functions in the pistol. I'm just going to shine it up a little bit. Now, a lot of people don't do any of this. They just install the parts. I suppose that's fine, but I just want to get mine done the right way the first time, so I don't have to go back and redo any of this. Again, it may not be necessary. It's just one of those things that I've always done when installing new parts. All right, so we're set up there. It looks a little dry, so I'm going to just throw a little bit of oil on it, rub it in. So we don't want any rust or anything like that to have any potential beginnings on it. So just coat it with a little bit of oil, and then we'll lube it with some grease. After we get done with this. All right, so I'm gonna just wipe off the excess. So get my trusty Lucas gun grease out. I'll wipe off all the extra when we get done, and be good to go. Okay, so we're going to put our hammer back in. Like I said, you want to make sure you get that spring that's in there. You can see that little spring right in front of my finger. Get that hooked underneath that bar in the back. Now, because of the shape of things here, it gets a little interesting to get it, put it back in. All right, now, yeah, we've got the tension. So definitely got tension on the hammer, so I've got my spring back in there, and well, I can't barely see, but all right, hopefully you can see it in there. All right, so we've got that back together. Now we got to put our internal parts back in. All right, well, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to take the trigger bar off. I've got to remove the block, got to remove the trigger. Trigger pin. All right, so there's our trigger bar and my new single action only Armory Craft trigger which I removed a little material off the corners. Just so I wanted to get a little better fit of it in there. All right, so now we will put our sear in. Now, I'm going to use Armory Craft set of springs that I got, and we're going to replace the hammer spring and the sear spring. So I'm going to try out. Now let's see, we're going to go with the 17-pound hammer spring, which is the red one, and we're going to do the competition sear spring, which is the purple one. So come on, springs, get out. All right, so we'll save that for later. Put the other one over there. Now, there's the purple one, which is obviously, I don't know, to me it's pretty obvious. It's a thinner wire. At least that's what I can see for myself. I may be wrong about that. All right, so let's get our sear reinstalled. I'm gonna get our purple Armory Craft sear spring set on there. Try to run a punch through there to hold everything in place. Okay, and then the last part is getting the safety back in. All right, so everything's there. We're going to take our sear pin and start pushing it back through, and there we go. Everything's back in place as it should be. All right, so with the hammer pin, you want it flush on this side so it sticks out just a little bit on the right side. Okay, so we'll put our, tell you what, I'm gonna put that back under tension, so nothing, the pin doesn't fall out. This is always a good time too. All right, so that's all back together now. Got our new hammer in there. Now I've got to start putting the trigger and other parts back in the pistol. So I'm going to throw a little bit of grease on this just to be sure. Okay, so all right. So as you can see, this little tab on the trigger bar sits right in front of the hammer pin. So we're going to put our slide lock back in there, and we're going to put our trigger pin back on. Put a little bit of grease on that. And we're going to reinsert the pin. Okay, so we've got our slide stop, slide release, whatever you prefer. Got to get the two little cutouts on the bottom facing the right direction, which is down. So you can also tell, see the horizontal lines on the trigger pin. Okay, get those pretty much horizontal. I tend to just turn it just back just a hair in order to get the block back in there. All right, got that part done. All right, our takedown lever. Just still got to get the new one that looks better for this pistol from Milos. The thing I will say about the one that I already have for my Legion is they are a tight fit, which is a good thing. Okay, so we've got all our parts put back together. Get our trigger bar up. Go ahead and put the spring back on. Just make sure you clip it into the right little cutout. It doesn't go in this big one. It doesn't go in the hole. It goes in the little notch right there. Okay. So now we've got to do the fun part and put our safety back in. So the right side has the leg on it. Okay, this little hole back here, there's like a little pin sticking out. We're gonna get this in there. That's what keeps it in place and it rotates on. Okay, we'll get our other side, left side on. Same kind of setup with the hole back here. Okay, so there's two holes. You've got to line this up and get that through this hole right here. Take it off real quick and just show you one more time. Okay, I don't remember how the new ones look exactly, but this part's probably still the same. So this hole, that hole lines up, get that rear part of the safety installed in there, and then the forward part through the pin of the other side of the safety. Okay. All right. Now, this is the fun part. It's getting this guy back in place. So we've got to get it flush and flat in there. And of course, it doesn't want to do that because it doesn't really quite fit because of the tension that it's going to apply once it's flat. So this is going to look horrible to some people, but I just haven't found a way to do this easily. So the other way is to just get it clipped under there to start with. And then force this part into place. All right, so this is a kind of a precarious situation right here, right now. So I want my hammer forward again. Now that's just literally held in place by friction right now. There's nothing else holding that spring in there. So we'll go ahead and reinstall our hammer strut. Okay, when you put your hammer strut in, you got to look down inside to get it in the right position. Should be able to see it up on that hammer pin, which I can't see anything right now, but I believe I see it there now. And we're going to use our 17-pound Armory Craft spring. We'll get the seat back on there. Okay. And that's that. So our last piece of the puzzle is I just want to make sure before I put the grips back on, the safety's functioning. And it is. You never want to release the hammer without the slide on there, unless you're holding it back, because you don't want that hammer sliding forward and slamming into anything. So, all right. That's that. I'm going to put the grips back on, and we'll go from there. I always put on a little, just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of blue Loctite on the threads, just to make sure they don't come off. And then I like to put my grips on like this, just to get them started, because these screws can get chingered up. Make sure you're using the correct sized screw bit. That way you'll avoid chingering up these grip screws, because that looks kind of like crap when they're all chewed up. And you get your grips back on, make sure they're lined up so they're not offset back here and annoying you when you're holding the pistol or just feeling around with it. That drives me absolutely nuts. So we'll tighten down the grip screws. Okay, one more time. All right. So, complete putting our pistol back together. Wow. Holy smokes. Well, that light sear spring definitely makes a huge difference. So, function checks. Release the trigger, pull the trigger, holding the trigger down, release the trigger, pull the trigger, and one more time, check the safety. Safety is operational. All right, so there you have it. All right, so let's see what kind of trigger pull we have on here now. I know that's not right. Woo! Holy smokes. Alright, so I don't know, after what was it, 7 or 8 trigger pulls, we're averaging 2 pounds 5 ounces. Before I started this whole process, I measured it out on my particular pistol, and it was right at 3 pounds 5 ounces. So we've dropped an entire pound off the trigger pull. That's pretty amazing with just changing the sear spring. So one thing I just need to point out regarding the new trigger pull, where I've lost nearly a pound. Before I replaced the springs in this, when I measured it, I had gray gun springs in it. It was the 17-pound gray gun spring, and also the lighter sear spring that they sell. So using the Armory Craft kit has reduced my single action pistol an entire pound. So that's extremely impressive, and it's still well within safety ranges, in my opinion, to go to a range and fire this gun. It might be a little bit light for carry use, so use your best judgment when you install these springs. You can test them out, try them out, see what you think. But yeah, the purple sear spring is probably not so recommended for carry use. So that's all I've got. I want to thank Milos Klachko and Armory Craft for another fine product. Can't wait to get this to the range and try it all out. Still got to get that Armory Craft takedown lever that matches the rest of the pistol. So looking forward to that. And thanks again, Milos. Appreciate it. And everyone else, thanks for your time.